Thanks everyone for coming back in. And I'm going to hand over to Chelsea, who we're going to lead a sort of facilitated mental health discussion, I guess, and it also involves the audience and the wonderful panel up here, but I'll hand it all to you, Chelsea.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for sticking around. And just huge congratulations to Dave Houston, because that was a phenomenal performance. And I laughed and I cried, so well done. So my name's Chelsea Hoodwithy and I'm a community organiser. So my focus is on systemic change to bring mental wellbeing to our communities. And this amazing panel sitting here upstage is quite phenomenal, and their work is very extensive in the mental health space. So I will invite them to introduce themselves, but I will just briefly mention who each of these panellists are. Dave Houston is obviously the writer and performer of Still Here, with 30 years experience working in mental health, and is the CEO, I guess, of Full On Theatre.
Head honcho.
Sorry?
The head honcho.
That's it, the head honcho. Faye Jackson is the CEO of Vision in Mind and the inaugural Deputy Commissioner of New South Wales Mental Health, a tireless advocate for mental health and a recipient of multiple awards for her work. RJ Menzies, a holistic addiction recovery specialist and mental health practitioner, incorporating art therapy, personal training and yoga into his approach. Ursula Wharton, the Northern Rivers Training Ambassador for Living Works, with extensive experience working across the spectrum of suicide prevention and bringing her lived experience to the discussion. So during the first part of the forum, each panellist will be invited to introduce themselves and talk about their work and what they get up to in the mental health space, and also their insights into the collective and individual approaches that we can each take to bring mental well-being to our communities and to also ourselves as a way of self-care. So I'll open the floor up to the panellists, and then we would love to hear from you as well. So we'd love to hear your stories, your insight, your questions, and yeah, that will be how the panel will go. So thanks for being here. Who would like to start? Myself.
Faye?
Sorry, who's the light person?
Deefa. Dave.
May I
No.
have...
Sorry.
What? No, not
Hanno.
Deefa.
Hanno's
Can I have some lights, please, mate? Because I need to see the people's faces. Sorry. I don't... Sorry, I can't tell whether I'm upsetting you with what I say or whether, I'm scaring you or... Oh, God. No, turn them down. No, just joking.
Is that too bright?
That's great. That's great. I can see people now. So I just want to say, first of all, acknowledge the traditional custodians of this beautiful Bundjalung nation where we live and work and play, and hope that the lives of Aboriginal people will be a lot better in the future than it has been in the past. Since we came. I'm shaking not because I'm nervous, although I'm always nervous when I'm sitting up on stage, but this is an unwanted side effect of lithium. So I was forced to take lithium for 25 years. In Australia, although we're a signatory to the International Convention on Human Rights, we don't meet them. Thousands of times a day across Australia. So the mental health acts across each state and territory allow for people like me to be treated against our will with things that says poison on the pack. So this is a lithium tremor, and I make fun of it, but it's actually really difficult to live with. But I try and make a bit of a joke of it. I say, oh, it's friendly, it waves, it makes a good cup of tea and a good martini, and I'll never do this in a boys' school talk again. Yeah. So, I was the first lived experience speaker for Beyond Blue. I never had a permanent job until the age of 40. psychiatrists told me when they diagnosed me, and I don't like diagnosis. I think over the course of a lifetime, diagnosis does more damage than good. And I also, I will offend some people by saying this, I also no longer believe in the biomedical model. I now think that trauma is the basis for like up 87, 90, depending on what diagnosis you're talking about. Trauma is the basis of it all. I was sexually abused as a child over 4 years and was in hospital for 2 years as a little child in Sydney, and my family were in the country. That's a lot of trauma, and then I was gang raped as a teenager. So, and then you go into the hospital system where they traumatise you more. And you're forced onto medication, which I was, and different medications, but lithium was the one that actually caused less damage to me than the other meds. But I've lost my thyroid, and they have severe impacts on your body that the community don't know about. And families wonder why we don't want to take our medications when they make us feel sick and we feel like we've got cotton wool stuffed in behind our eyes, and our livers and kidneys and everything starts being negatively impacted. I take CBD and THC oil by prescription. Without it, I can't walk anymore. I can't feed myself. That's how serious these meds can be. But society wants everybody who doesn't fit inside the box comfortably for them to be medicated so that we do fit inside that box. And that's a great shame, because this world's a very beautiful place if it's a safe place. If I'm a really lovely person to know. Well, my husband says so. I've been with him since I was 15, so he was a dirty old man. But if I'm safe, if I feel safe, then I'm a really lovely person to know. I've never been aggressive. That, what went on in Bondi recently, in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, I read a lot. As the Deputy Commissioner with the New South Wales Mental Health Commission, I was a peer worker in the public system, then a manager of peer workers, then the Director of Consumer Care Affairs, all of that, then the Deputy Commissioner, and now I'm General Manager of Inclusion at a very large not-for-profit which supports people with really complex trauma and complex mental health issues. Most of the people that we support, like me, are voice hearers and extremely anxious people. When I don't feel safe, I'm not good to be around because I'm frightened, and fear begets fear, That's the thing. We're 400 times more likely to be victims of crime than to commit crime. What happened in Bondi wasn't about a mental health issue. You'll hear all sorts of stuff about that. There's something else going on there. Okay? I know thousands of people with that diagnosis and the diagnosis that I was given, which is similar. And I have never met a person who has been dangerous. So there's a lot of myth, a lot of stigma, a lot of discrimination. I actually don't usually use the word stigma because it allows people to get away with discrimination. So life is really wonderful around people with lived experience if they feel safe and if you respect them and don't patronise them and help them to be the person that they are born to be. And that's what I've eventually been. My first paid job at the age of 40, and I'm about to retire at the age of 63, and all of that stuff I fitted in that time because I finally found someone who would give me a chance at a job, and that's all I needed. And that's all we need. We need a chance to be the best person we can be so that we can give back what we have to give in the service of our community.
Thank you, Faye. No, it wasn't too long. I would love to come back to you on your thoughts around what might have caused the Bondi stabbings once we have heard from other panellists first. So I'll pass it over to Ursula, if you would like to give a little intro and talk about your work.
Sure, thank you. I was kind of hoping to go last because I was a bit of a last-minute panellist, so I'm not prepared. But yeah, so I'm Ursula. I, like many of us, have a lot of different roles in life. The one, I guess, that comes first for me is mother. I actually lost a child to suicide, my son Josh. Died of suicide at the age of 17 in 2017, and he had been through the mental health system in Queensland for a couple of years here and a couple of years there, and he'd struggled with neurodiversity. And as a parent, I had spent a lot of time trying to support and advocate for my child, and we did have difficulties with, I guess, in our particular experience, it does work for some people, and different methods and different people work, you know, well. But in our experience, I think the mental health system is very far in a couple of 100 years ago in comparison to many other industries and technologies. There's so much that we don't know and understand, and so much harm that has still been done. There were a lot of times that more harm than good came of those interactions. So after I lost my son, I actually started advocating for compassion as medicine in mental health care. I absolutely believe that compassion is medicine for the soul. Of course, we need practical things, but compassion is that connection, that loving connection that we all have for each other. And we're all capable, you know, of giving that medicine of compassion, and it makes such a big difference. Every time I saw my son Josh treated with compassion, there was a positive change. Every time I saw a lack of compassion, there was a negative change. So I really believe this. If there's one thing you take from me, it's that compassion is medicine, and you're entirely capable of giving that medicine yourselves. So I became an advocate and lived experience speaker, and I'm on some committees and things like that to try and change the system, try and improve the system from that lived experience perspective. I also became a trainer, and so I'm the Northern Rivers Training Ambassador for Living Works. So that's assist training, which is suicide intervention skills training. It's really amazing. Anyone in the audience done it? I know one of, yeah, a few? Yeah, it's pretty amazing training. We've actually got assist running here Monday and Tuesday upstairs. And there's some free safe talks happening. You'll see, you can grab a QR code and log yourself into the free safe talk that's coming up here on the 20th of June, actually. Because suicide is not an individual's problem. It's not something that we can continue to outsource to the mental health system. The mental health system's underprepared, it is under-resourced, well and truly over capacity. It doesn't have all the answers at this point in time. And actually, I finally at this age realise, and I would have loved to have realised this 20 years ago, that we shouldn't be putting all our eggs in the system basket. We are human beings, and part of being social creatures is that we connect with each other and we help regulate each other emotionally, spiritually. So this kind of, I think, a cultural concept that we have around, you know, if you're feeling bad, you know, ring Lifeline, you know, don't burden your friends. This isn't very helpful, and I think this is really contributing to the significant amount of anxiety and depression and suicide that is around us. And I know you mentioned that suicide's the leading cause of death from 15 to 44. Well, The Guardian just rang me last week, and they're about to do a story because in Queensland it's the leading cause of death right down to 10 years old now. Yeah. Clinicians can't be there all the time. People with the professional skills can't be there all the time. You know who is? The people around us are there all the time. So if we, the people in our community, are upskilling ourselves, then we don't need to be babysat, I guess, by the system, by the government, by professionals, you know. I feel so crucial that we all as individuals play our part, get skilled up, understand the differences between myth and fact, and step in, you know, reach in, because it is so difficult, like you say, for people to reach out. And, you know, we're so conditioned to put on the mask that some of us, we don't even know how to take the mask off. So it's so important that we all gain those skills. Anyway, that's about me for now until you ask me a question.
Thank you so much for being here. And I think that's really right. It is about looking after each other. And that's why we wanted to have a forum after this really powerful show, is so that we can actually all hold each other in this space. And also, I was really quite shocked, and I'm really saddened to hear that it's as low as 10 years old now. It doesn't surprise me, which is also profound. But that's something that we can work collectively and individually as a community to combat. And that's why we want to have this conversation. So I'd love to hear from you, RJ, and what work you're getting up to.
Thanks. Hello, I'm RJ, and really honoured to be here. Very quite humbled to be amongst this panel. It's really quite impressive of all of your contributions. I said early on when I was invited that I'm a one-trick pony, and my thing is clean and sober. That's all I've got. I'm a drug and alcohol counsellor, and I work in the front line at a short-term detox and rehab facility, mainly for veterans. And so they're coming in, sometimes detoxing, and they might stay 6 weeks, maximum usually about 3 months. And I'm there on the ground, you know, I'm working with these people and I see the transformations they go through. It's not cheap either. It's about 50 grand a month to go to this rehab. And I'm going to give you all now the $50,000 per month program for free. And that is go to meetings, go to AA meetings if you're an alcoholic, and go to NA meetings if you're an addict. That's the best treatment method we have. What addicts get at meetings is the connection that you mentioned. Yes. And the lines between mental health and addiction are blurred to the point now where there isn't necessarily divides between what you study to get into that field. You can study down the drug and alcohol route or mental health route, or there's different avenues to get in, but the treatment is the same. And addiction really can be defined as isolation, and you can't have addiction really in a community. And so the opposite of that, the cure, is connection. And I come from lived experience, and so I was on a bender for 12 years. And actually part of that bender I performed on this stage, DJing in 2014 at like a psychedelic light and trance show or something. I also have lived experience in homelessness. I was homeless in the car park behind Johnson Street there. And I've got multiple years of clean time. And yeah, coming from a peer support and lived experience kind of background, just want to be an advocate and show that recovery is possible, really. And so that's kind of my 2 cents, but yeah, definitely grateful to be here. I'll pass it back, Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that is it, isn't it? It's connection, it's going to meetings. And in my work, I'm very active in the community space, and we have meetings for housing first strategies and also fully funded flood recovery, so we're advocating to help people. And it seems to be, you know, a through line here is that the system's not working. It's not supporting people. It's actually the community that has to step up and look after each other. And I guess also I would love to just see mental in Medicare, like ways of the system, like we could advocate for the system to benefit us in a way that's more meaningful, rather than, kind of this, prescribe medications and diagnose people and pigeonhole them, rather than actually empowering community to facilitate those spaces like an AA meeting or a community group where you get to actually advocate for change. So, Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Well, I guess people have seen my show. So my mental health spin-out journey would have started in my early 20s when I was studying drama. I've had a lot of episodes. Sometimes they'd last 3 months, sometimes they'd go for longer, and I'd sort of come out of them. But I was lucky to work for about 10 years with the Royal Children's Hospital, and it was part of the mental health unit, integrated mental health unit, and then it was called the Festival for Healthy Living. But it was great in that program because we got to be artists in residence in communities after the bushfires, the 2009 Black Summer bushfires, or Black Saturday bushfires, and in areas where there'd been high suicide and other areas. But it was great because it was a supported alliance between artists, educators, teachers and community workers. So yeah, I'm just blown away by how much experience you have. So I feel that I'm just coming at it from an artist's point of view. But we did have someone a while ago who we got in to speak, and he was a stand-up comedian, but he's talked, laughter's the best medicine, and so he had a lot of that talk. But I think actually when you do laugh, I don't know all the chemicals that are happening, but I know your body's letting go of things. And to laugh with other people, to look at them, to share with them, I think that's the coming together that can happen and is pretty amazing and special. So I guess I like to have humour in my work and in my life, and yeah, it's such a big topic. So I'll just I don't know what else I can say. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else, and I can jump into the discussion. But it's I know for me, art and laughter and connection, and it is true. I said in the show I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my folks. So yeah, I haven't had to check into a hospital, but now they're getting old, so that awaits. And I've heard some, you know, what you said, just some terrible stories of the system. So it's obviously massively out of date and out of behind. And I know when up in Mildura there was a thing where young people couldn't access mental health system unless they'd made an attempt on their life. So if they went and said, I'm having a rough time, no, sorry, you've almost got to go and have a go, and then we can help you. So it's totally under-resourced.
Yeah, that's what it's like in most of Australia, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to be, well, that's one way of getting treatment, is to say that you're suicidal, and that's almost always the only way to get into the public system in most areas, especially in rural and regional and remote areas. So, yeah, it's a bit different in cities, but, yeah, sorry.
There's another mic too.
Well, do we want to put it to the floor? Does anyone have any questions or things that they'd like to share, insights, work they're working on that they wanted to elevate here?
Hi everyone, my name is Kurz. I thought I'd go first too because I was actually I haven't talked to you yet, I was meant to be on this panel, but I had to say no because I'm meant to be in a psych ward right now, funnily enough. But because of the admission and because of a lot of issues within the actual system itself, I've been trying to get in since the beginning of April, and yeah, it's been put off again. So yeah, here I am on the other side. But I wanted to actually just highlight a couple of things that I think is really important in terms of gaps. I also just want to say that I'm sitting next to my brother boy here, which is Mitch.
Yeah. Hey sis.
Hey, and I'm Kerslake Radry. So I want to bring in that kind of perspective as well. But basically, what I see, particularly in the trauma, PTSD, complex PTSD world, there's so much discussion and space and stuff around men, but not around women at all. And that's something that I found actually help seeking within the white systems and within the hospitals, that specifically for women there is actually one clinic that I found, which is the one that I'm waiting on. So that's a big issue that I'm going to start to do quite a bit of advocacy around, and also given all the women's marches that have been happening recently. and a lot of that trauma that's coming out more and more in the community, and all from the Enough is Enough marches, like from a few years ago, like as that kind of boils up and there's more kind of like community rituals of grief and trauma like this, which was amazing, Dave, P.S., awesome show. Yeah, like to find spaces for women and identifying and non-binary as well, spaces within that actually can hold the capacity, because the capacity is just, it's the numbers are huge and there's just nothing to actually hold that. So yeah, and also bringing in, I know that a lot of, I can't remember her name, do you remember that sister girl who ran those marches recently? Over the country. I think she's from this organisation, you might know, Chels, What You're Wearing. There's like an organisation, I think she's a Wabakal, like Newcastle way. Anyway, she led all the recent women's marches, and also, you know, she's a young Indigenous woman, so she's probably only 24. So get onto her Facebook page and stuff as well. I just want to like highlight her and her work. She's doing a lot of stuff around drink spiking, and then also what to do within community around, yeah, like all the stuff that ends up happening with that, all trauma. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I think more stuff like this, and also coming from an artist perspective, highlight our show, I guess, that we're doing. I might give the mic to you next, Mitch, if you want to do that.
Is there an ad there?
There was an advert there. New show coming soon.
But I think this stuff needs to happen more, you know, like community spaces of this, you know, that was so powerful. Like there's not often, after being in the theatre for many years, that shows actually really get me, you know. And yeah, you got me, mate. But yeah, so I'll give it to you, Mitch. There you go.
Thanks for that, Kurs. Thanks for that. So yeah, I guess what we're doing, us three, me, Dave, and Kurs, we're doing a show called Strong Mob, which is about mental health within Indigenous communities, and not only just the negative sides, but the beautiful stuff that happens in community, and the fact that, you know, we as family, we don't have nuclear families. Like there's always a brother, you know, like a cousin or a niece or a nephew. We're always like supporting each other, and that comes with great support, but obviously that comes with some burden and you know, sort of, I guess, you know, what that brings on within those sort of family frameworks. And so we talk a lot about trauma, as Uncle Colin, shout out to Uncle Colin Appo, that really talks about his life, a lot of his life story within that, as he's a cultural man, but he's been through a lot in his journey, and he shares a lot of that and his vulnerability within it, and from his first show, his own lived experience into that, and I think with our characters too, we play about a little bit of our own life experiences from, you know, being the son, and also but being also the mother, who's like, you know, sort of being the family glued together, and what that takes on, but also coming from like this protest background, but then also Dave playing this, you know, well, Rio Tinto, you know, sort of executive that's on anger management and goes to retreat, and so it's just an interesting sort of dynamic in the show, and I guess what I wanted to sort of, what I connected to with what you all are saying up there on stage, it's just that what I was resonating with a lot was around that the power of connection with each other, and what that really means. And it's so interesting to hear that from professionals like yourself, and how sometimes that's stigmatized within, like, you know, within certain spaces. So when people go to, you know, AA meetings and stuff like that, and just the fact that people just want to connect and connect with people with similar situations and understandings. And I guess like how, I guess I'll call it, you know, the mainstream community can, you know, look at those and look down upon those where people just want to connect, you know. And so what I'm just acknowledging, and I suppose in what the thread here is, like, people just want to have the power of connection, and the fact that we get to do that through theatre as well. And that's what I love about art, and how we can all come and be entertained, but also hear something so deep, and something that is so, I guess, the vulnerability, you know, of artists and showing themselves, and how authentic that is. So thanks, brother, for showing yourself time and time again, and showing us, you know, what your story is and what it means, but also, you know, your own lived experience and the power of that. So yeah, I just want to shout out to you, like always, brother. So, and with the work, you know, what not only creativity, but I guess creating more of a social norm around this space. If you need help, if you need to go and connect with someone, you know, it's either put our hands up to be able to just listen and be there, be an ear. Because I know, like, you know, sometimes when we are around family, it's like, you know, it sort of hits home sometimes, I guess, because they're so close to us, and it is sensitive because sometimes it's in our own, literally in our own backyard. There's sometimes what they're saying is like some of us connected with us, and sometimes we don't know how to support them, but just listening and being there. It's so fun, interesting sometimes where I've been able to do that within my work, because I've been a youth worker for 16 years as well, and I guess as well, but being able to do that for friends, just sit there and listen and have a chat and yarn. But then when it comes around family, sometimes I kind of choke up in my mind a little bit. So it's like I still listen, but the words are not coming, you know what I mean? Because I love them so much. I don't want to get the wrong thing, to say the wrong thing, I guess. And I'm learning that every day. I'm just trying to learn to maybe be more present with Mob in that regard, and just sort of, you know, if anyone's, you know, having a down time, just being there and just listening, and just trying to learn to improve on that every day, I guess. So, but back to you, brothers. Thanks for the show, and really appreciate it, man. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mitch.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Questions?
Or questions to these people?
Hey, my name's Mark. I've got a question for the lady in red. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Faye.
Sorry, what was it?
Faye.
Faye.
You've got a
Nana.
microphone here.
Nana.
Nana.
Mum.
Faye.
Whatever.
I work in the, or do some youth camps where I work with the youth mental health sort of area. And what I've sort of found recently is there seems to be a trend, because you were talking about medication, it seems to be sort of a trend with young people about who's taking the most medication, you know, and it's sort of this trend. So I just wanted your opinion on that and that topic.
Yeah. I have some alternative views about things, right? So I'm just going to speak my truth, but the truth doesn't just come through my own lived experience. The truth comes through 30 years of working in mental health as well, and seeing how diagnosis has changed over the time, how, you know, like when you're too young to remember this, but when there's a few of us in here that would remember the TV program United States of Tara. And when that was on, everybody was getting diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, you know. So it goes in trends, and unfortunately, it does also with medications. Big Pharma, and I know when anybody says Big Pharma around here, everybody thinks that we're, what's this, conspiracy theorists. But I'm talking from a professional background here. And Big Pharma love giving us medication, and they've told psychiatry that medication is the only thing in their healing toolbox that they've got. They've told Big Pharma have told psychiatrists that connection, relationship, listening that doesn't do any healing. It's all about chemistry, because it's all bio-identical. You know, it's all my words have got mixed up anyway. It's all about the brain chemistry. And there is no science in it. It's guesswork. And when you're in front of a psychiatrist and they this one will diagnose you with that, and then another one, their favourite diagnosis is something else, you know. And they've also got their medications that they prefer. And a young brain doesn't finish developing until around the age of 24 years. Patrick McGorry, who used to be the CEO of Headspace, and I've had many arguments about this, that they should be teaching the young ones how to manage their own thoughts and feelings. So let's just say, and we're here talking about suicide, and I'm really appreciative of you going to it, not avoiding it, not skipping stones over it or whatever, people who've experienced trauma like I have, and like a lot of the young kids have, it is normal to think of suicide when you've experienced trauma. But nobody tells people. Everybody tells people that's abnormal. That's wrong, that's bad, or that's it. It's actually a really normal human response, And if we're talking to kids about the normalcy of that kind of thing, it takes a lot of the pain out of it. When somebody I had training from the Blue Knot Foundation. If you can get training from them, it's fantastic. And I really love the suicide prevention training through LifeWorks as well. But it is fantastic because it teaches you the normal responses to trauma. And thinking about suicide is one of them. I think about suicide on a daily basis, even though I laugh and I work and I travel and, I feed my family. I still think about suicide on a daily basis because that is a normal response to severe trauma. But then when you know that takes away some of the fear. When you have those thoughts and feelings and you don't know that's a normal response, your next response is, shit, I'm going mad, or shit, I'm going to die. And it gets worse. It starts going round and round and round. It builds and builds and builds, and it gets worse. Whereas when I've sat with my peers, and when I say peers, it's not about age, it's about vulnerability and where your head's been at and where your heart's been. And so an example, a young gentleman came to see me. He was doing his year 11. He was in a really bad way. He just rocked up at my door one day in Bruns, and he's in a bad way. And I could see how bad he was, and I sat with him and just let him talk, just be with him, just let him talk. He talked for hours. And he's talked about suicide. And I said to him, what is it that you're most afraid of, mate? And he said, I'm afraid I'm going to go mad, really mad. And I said, well, look, mate, I tell you what, you're dealing with severe anxiety. I have dealt with that. It's terrible. Severe anxiety is harder to deal with in lots of ways. Really severe anxiety, in some ways, is harder than depression. Depression is terrible, but that knotting up, oh my God, it's so hard to just sit in your skin with severe anxiety. You can't sleep, you can't talk, you're frightened all the time. It's your fight, flight, freeze thing. Your amygdala's turned on the whole time. And when you've had trauma, you start sitting in that fight, flight, freeze all the time. And how are you going to respond? Some people will fight, some people will get angry, some people shut down, some people run. There's another one, fawn. Some people go, oh, I'm sorry, oh, let me help you, oh, I'll do anything, just don't hurt me, just don't, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, And it starts all spiralling in and gets worse and worse and worse. And I said to this young man, you're really afraid of going insane. I can tell you, I've been certified many times. I've been really insane. And what you're going through now, darling, is worse than that. It's worse than that. And you've come this far, you've made it. So you're a survivor, you're strong. You've made it through this terrible thing. And if you go mad, it's going to be easier than this. And I just saw him go, so this is all right. I said, oh yeah, it's all right. You're going to be okay. You're not going to be mad. He said, what about the suicide? I said, don't worry about the suicide. People think about that. That's a normal response. Don't worry about it. You don't have to act on it. And he went, oh. And I said, that's the thing. That's what people don't realise. It's a normal response and you don't have to act on it. And he walked out like a different person. You know, he was just, you know, and his mother rang me about a week later and said, what did you say to him? And I said, look, I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell you, because if he needs me again, he needs to know that he can rely on me. If he was in danger, I would tell you. But I believe he's okay now. She said he started eating again. He started going out with his friends again. He started going back to school again. I'm hearing him laughing with his siblings again. He's talking about the future again. He was afraid of being mad when I told him madness isn't so bad as what he was living through. And he was afraid of the suicidal thoughts he had when I said, you don't need to be worried about them. You just don't act on them. They're just normal when you've been through trauma. And his life changed because took away the fear of it all. The fear of it all makes it much worse. It spirals it all down. And being with his family, again, his community, going back to school, everything, within a week that boy was starting to really, you know. I lost my brother. I lost my daughter, one of my daughters. I've lost many friends. And I only wish I knew before they died what I know now about suicidality and how normal it is to think it when you've had trauma. You just don't have to act on it, but you do need to talk about it and work through your healing, you know. I'm sorry I've gone on and on.
No, thank you.
Did I answer your question at all? No, I didn't. So I don't believe drugs should be going in on young brains unless it's the absolute, unless everything else has been tried. And services will tell you it's the last resort. Bullshit. It's not the last resort. Have they tried peer work? Hardly likely. You know, like have they tried equine therapy? Have they tried, you know, art therapy? Have they tried, you know, all of those things? Medication is the first thing they jump to, not the last. And medication can really damage young brains and young bodies. And I'm really against it unless there's absolutely no other way. And sometimes for a short period of time, only a short period of time, not parking them on it for the rest of their lives and telling them that you'll never recover. They told me that I would never work and that I'd never be a valuable member of society, that I wouldn't be able to keep my children, that I wouldn't be able to have long-term relationships. I've been with my husband since I was 15. I raised my children. My grandsons live with me quite a bit. Not live with me, stay with me quite a bit. I've just resigned from 10 years in the one job, and before that, 6 years as a deputy commissioner. Like, it's all bullshit. They give you these diagnoses and then diagnose away your life. You know, I get phone calls from mothers with young children, 13, 14, being told that they won't be able to make it through school. You know, that's a crime. That's a crime. That's abuse. And young people shouldn't be experiencing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was kind of the major thing. No, that was just the major thing. It's just kind of, I get it because it's community as well, right? Like for them it's trying to create a connection between each other with what meds they're taking, right? But it was, when I saw it and was witnessing it over the camps and the few camps I've done, I was like, that's quite concerning how that is kind of become a cool thing to what meds and which ones you're taking and which ones you're taking, you know. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that.
Strange, but they want organic quinoa. You know, like I just find that so strange that they want organic this and that to be healthy and what's the best water, but we're going to take these drugs that are going to really fuck up your body. So they need to have informed choice, you know. Telling them what they can take, this drug or that drug, that's not choice. Telling them what these drugs can do to them and then giving them choice whether they want to take that. That's informed choice.
I'd just like to comment on that as well, if I could, about how rapidly people can recover very quickly from these things. And I see it all the time. Clients of mine come in with multiple diagnoses on multiple pharmaceutical substances to treat these things. that I think are just imaginary. I'm not sure, or if it's pharmacists using these veterans as guinea pigs to see, oh, let's mix in some of that with some of that. And 6 weeks later, they're walking out, no mental health diagnosis and no medications. Sleeping, eating, laughing, happy, exercising, making jokes, being silly, being playful. Like, these are hardened war veterans, like, you know, and they come out finding life. And we also explored a bit of laughter and in our last panel and tonight. And just the miracle of that really can't be spoken of highly enough, and the transformation it can have, yeah.
You were cracking me up, and it's so good. It creates the same chemical changes as love. So that's, you were wondering about the love. That's
right.
yeah.
So laughter and love.
Yeah.
That's similar.
It's a similar chemistry.
Yeah.
Unless there's any burning desire for people to say one more thing or ask a question, I think we might wrap up because it's getting a bit on. No, don't be silly.
I'm really sorry.
I guess.
Who
I just
enjoyed
wanna
what face
something.
I had to say?
So medication, it's such a big thing because I'm on meds at the moment and I'm reducing. And one of the time I reduced to a really low dose, I was meditating, I wasn't smoking weed, I wasn't drinking, I was exercising. I broke up with this girl and I still got depressed. And it's so hard, you know, and then other times I'll, I don't know, take drugs or go out. But I am on some meds, so I just want people, if people are on meds, I don't need to be feeling bad and thinking, I've just got to stop, I'm going to stop my meds. I went and saw that, they don't agree with it because, you know, it's a very low efficacy rate, and there is discussions about, are they just totally useless, what are they? And also the psychiatrists don't know, and they have their favourite ones, and I had some good success with this one. So it is a tricky thing, and obviously it's a whole package. If that's going to make you feel 1 or 2% better, then if that 1 or 2% is sometimes a big percentage that you want to feel better, you know. But I know acupuncture for depression has got a similar efficacy for helping people move through. And so I do a lot of different holistic things, but I just wanted to share that because I don't know if there is a place for meds, but I'm on them and I'm reducing again at the moment, so it's
I've got
hard.
friends on meds and they won't ever come off them because they feel much better on it. And that's fine, you know, that if they work for you, that's fine. And if they're not giving you the unwanted side effects, that's fine. You know, that's great. But it's about choice and an informed choice. And I never had a choice. And of course, so I'm going to be a bit crooked about that.
Yes.
but certainly I have friends who are on meds. But I hate the idea of people just being parked on them for the rest of their lives when they haven't tried equine therapy or peer support or, you know,
Yeah,
any
I
other
totally
things.
get that. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, it reminded me that we've got some really amazing things starting to come up now. Like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the safe havens locally. They're pretty amazing. You know, that's one of those little tiny things where you can interact with a peer, so someone who kind of gets what you're going through, rather than it just be a clinician. And you can just walk in and it's free. And it's, you know, any time between midday and 6 o'clock, you can walk in. There's one in Mullum, there's one in Woodburn, there's one in Tweed, Mawullumba, Lismore. These are really great, you know, peer safe spaces. There's a couple of flyers for them. The one at Mullum's at the, is it community centre, neighbourhood centre there? That's right by, yeah. And I've just started doing EMDR for like trauma therapy. You know, some of this stuff is, you know, like has been around a while, but we're only just coming to, oh, look, we can do this in Australia, you know. So there are some really amazing things happening. And still, I think the best of those are when you can just connect with other people who get what you're going through, right?
That seems like the through line through all of this is connection with each other, looking out for one another and getting support when you need it and not being afraid to speak up when you do need that support. You mentioned that before, like we call a lifeline and we're talking to a stranger when we could maybe call a friend and speak to someone that already has a bit of context about who we are and where we're at with our lives. So I think leaning on each other is going to be is a big part of, you know, healing, and obviously understanding where you're at and understanding your options as well for recovery. Like we've just spoken about art therapy and equine therapy. There's a lot of options. You don't just have to go straight to, you know, a psychiatric facility or medication, which there's a time and place for that, but it's not the number one. So I'd just like to thank everyone for sticking around for this conversation. There's obviously a lot more to discuss. Did you want to say something, or are you just power to the people? Hell yeah. Thank you. So there's obviously, a lot more to talk about in mental health, and I really hope that we can do this show and forum again and again and again and reach even more people, because this is very powerful what you're doing, Dave. This is art with a cause, and I just want to commend you again for doing
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to the panel, to Chelsea.
Don't be silly. Well, everyone have a good night and take care of each other.
Thank you.